My Govanen, one and all, and welcome back once again to the Literary Baptists, the show where we examine great works of literature from the perspective of a particular Baptist. Hello to the entire panel this evening. How is everyone? All at once?
Good.
Sleepy.
I'm going to quit asking this question eventually.
I got the gold medal.
It's like when you ask a teenager, "How was your day?"
What'd
you
How
learn
was
in school today?
I don't know.
Nothing. Didn't learn anything.
Sounds like public school.
I wouldn't know, but I've heard tell.
I would know.
It's true.
I would know.
I do. So to make a somewhat of an apology, the video part of the last episode got corrupted and I wasn't able to produce it. And so the initial appearance of the cream cheese hat was completely missed. And I do feel I'll take the regrets for that to my grave. So my apologies to the audience for depriving them of what could have been, but I'm glad Nick has fixed that and made remedy.
Cream cheese is back.
Cream cheese is back, man.
You shouldn't have listened to Melkor, and then he wouldn't have corrupted the video.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I was working on the video in secret, and we all know what happens when you work on works of art in secret. It's not good.
That's good.
This video will be your red helmet. Or fell sword.
So speaking of Melkor, we are back. We get to see both big bad boys of the First Age in this chapter. The next chapter being which I was so stoked that we finally got here after what seems like 10 years of podcasting. The of the Silmarils and the unrest of the Noldor. A truly pivotal chapter. So now I'm curious, before we start, how many of us read it with our eyeballs or had Andy Serkis read it to us into our ears?
I
Who's
did
in the
both.
Okay. I'm in the auditory category this time.
I used my eyeballs.
Yeah, I'm with cream cheese.
I listened to the circus one, and that was awesome. And then I read it afterwards because it's short enough to do both.
Yeah, I think this is the first recording since the Circus audiobook came out on Audible. And it is dynamite. I told somebody the other day, I think it's going to be like the gateway drug for a new generation to read the Silmarillion.
Mm-hmm.
Either we will be, or this audiobook will be. Either or. It could be the same level of influence.
Yeah. We should have him on here and just give him a platform where he could become famous.
Look,
right.
Through
Andy, we know
podcast.
people only know you as the voice of Gollum. Why don't you come on the show and really tell the world that you're an audiobook producer now and one of the greats? He could use that publicity from us.
Yeah, we'll give him a platform.
This is the open invitation. We know you listen. Listen, Andy, we know you listen to every single episode of this pod, so you're welcome to come on here anytime you're available. So hit us up at the links.
We always want to help out the little guy whenever we can.
Yeah, that's our responsibility.
Yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility.
That's right.
With great pod comes great with great pod comes great responsibility.
Sure.
Yes.
Man, that might end up in the podcast description. I love that. Anyway, I don't know, maybe this is a literary criticism on my part. It seems like Tolkien just kind of throws the jewels at us like right at the start. Like there's no real like lead up to it. I kind of wish I knew more of the inspiration, like some of the inner thoughts of Feanor that inspired him to, like, why 3 jewels, right? Not 1 jewel. Why not 2 jewels, since there are 2 trees, where he takes the light of the 2 trees and infuses it in these jewels made of some material that nobody knows what it is. I just kind of wish I knew more about what was going on in his mind before we see him craft them in the text. I don't know if that was something that occurred to anybody else.
He kind of mentions it. He likes the trees. He's like, I want to keep that going for a long time. Which is something I
respect that.
Yeah, I respect. Like, if you see something that is beautiful and nice, and you say, you know what, I want to preserve that for as long as possible. That's like what museums exist to do. That's what like archives exist to do. So he's like a museum guy.
So
But
a
he's
a museum is a Silmaril of knowledge.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Unless it's in France and then it gets burned down.
Yeah. Of course. And a lot of them museum buildings are pretty ugly. They don't really make them to look like diamonds anymore. They fill them with a bunch of garbage. Yeah. So
We need to forge your museums into tiny little crystal stones
yes,
to save them.
I agree.
That's how we preserve things.
I mean, it would make them tamper proof. Like, you're not gonna be worried about vandalism in that scenario. Nobody's breaking that window.
It sounds very Star Wars to me.
I'm down.
You know,
They'll
where
be preserved
Obi-Wan
forever.
goes to the library and he has the little crystals and stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I was thinking of the time machine from Napoleon Dynamite. You gotta put in the crystals.
Oh my goodness.
But I
Yes,
actually do
the
think that
classics.
preservation is the preservation it's a good thing. Like I went and I was doing some work with microfilm archives this past, well, I guess it was last week. And I saw some where there was a whole line scratched out. I don't know what happened when they were making the microfilm, but that's lost. Unless there's another copy somewhere else, but usually there isn't. And so that kind of stuff is lost. And so I understand, like, he has some kind of the shadow of foreknowledge, possibly, that something's going to happen. And so he's like, well, let's preserve this as much as we can. And
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was something I wanted to talk about, which I thought was a very interesting little reference there. Shadow of foreknowledge. Where's that coming from? Is that just some special blessing? Is that part of his, like, secret fire burning in his heart?
probably middle knowledge.
this was the best of all possible outcomes.
Just to be
Yeah,
clear,
he was listening to William Craig, and then he
Yeah.
decided.
we affirm against the papacy here. In order to make that completely clear, and thus we will also affirm against Molinism, which is related.
Yeah.
Super clear.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do. Can't leave people wondering where we stand on these things.
I think the intro to, well, I would just say first that the language throughout this chapter was, he used a lot of key metaphors throughout, a lot of burning fire type metaphors. And it just, that shadow of foreknowledge, doom, all that stuff, like right off the bat, it's very foreboding. And I think what was so significant to me that stood out in this chapter is kind of like the in some sense independence that Feanor has from Melkor. It's not just like Feanor only does the bad stuff because of Melkor.
Mm-hmm. He hates
As
him.
we-
He's like his
yeah.
number one enemy.
And as we get into it, later, there is some interplay there, but I just thought that was interesting that he kind of, that lust is one of the words that was used a couple times in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's like desiring to preserve it, it doesn't seem like it's all out of goodwill. Even though it doesn't necessarily say right here like that he's trying to preserve it for himself, but there's that kind of sense of pride in him wanting to keep something alive longer than it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of what I took from this beginning section here.
Yeah, Melkor in this chapter is kind of marked by that lust that you mentioned, and Feanor's marked by pride in a pretty major way. So I guess something I've wondered. So so we in the third age we talk about how basically the fate of the world hangs on the existence or destruction of the One Ring, right? We can kind of describe it that way. But truly, the fate of the world, like you wouldn't have a One Ring without the Silmarils. It's a very similar thing, and the division that comes over because of the Silmarils and people laying claim to owning them really is what kind of begins the great struggle in the world. In a way that you really couldn't even say of Melkor's struggle against the other Valar. Like this is a power struggle among the children of Iluvatar in a real way that actually that affects the world, affects the people of the world. I think that's interesting. Like there's a reason this whole because this book stretches 2 entire ages of Middle Earth, and there's a reason it's called the Silmarillion, because these things are so core to the story of the whole world, not just this book, but all of Middle Earth. And I guess one question in my mind. So we've talked a little bit about Feanor's motivations, but are the Silmarils evil objects the way that the One Ring is an evil object?
I would say
So, no.
no. Same. Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Can't have one. Sorry. Can't allow that to happen.
Well, in Zatch's part of the world, a Coke can mean anything.
It's true.
That's true. Yeah.
I'll take a Sprite.
One of them Sprite Cokes.
What kind of Coke you want? Zach wants a caffeine-free Diet Coke. No, I don't.
That's the good stuff.
Oh, sorry,
No,
that's
it's
just
not.
Nick.
That's
that
terrible.
That's the nectar.
Wants that. Ugh.
No,
Mm.
no,
Ugh.
that's wrong.
We talked about stuff being done in secret. That's been one of our themes in the chapters up till now, where Aule makes the dwarves in secret and then has to bring them out in shame and offer to destroy them. All this secret stuff is a sign that evil's being done. And yet here, the greatest creation that Feanor will ever make, and perhaps the greatest work of craftsmanship in Middle Earth, and he does he presents the jewels to the Valar.
Mhm.
And I thought that's an interesting move, because if I'm him, let me state this a different way. If if I am him and I'm as evil as everybody says I am, this would be the number one thing I would keep secret. I wouldn't show them to anybody. They'd be
His
just
pride doesn't
mine.
allow that though.
Who doesn't? His
Yeah.
pride.
Yeah, he has to be recognized.
I was
'Cause-
reading Matthew 6 this morning, and in it, that's don't go around sounding a trumpet saying I'm giving, given to doing all these good works and everything. And so, I mean, that's kind of what he's doing. So it's may not be secret, but it's basically the equivalent of like showing up. It's what the Pharisees always have done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and another thing why the Silmarils are different from the ring is that they kind of possess, on that first page of the chapter, it talks about that it houses the inner fire.
Mm.
They kind of have a life of their own in a sense from the trees. And then later, it says about Feanor that he seldom remembered now that the light within them was not his own.
Ooh.
So there's definitely that element where the One Ring is forged to control and use your will to control. The Silmarils are not really like forged with any sort of purpose of exerting willpower. It's more that kind of their power and their beauty and their brightness, essentially, is what it is. Their light is innate because he trapped the light from the trees into them. So it's not something he put in there of his own power. So yeah, and then they're hollowed later by I think it was Varda.
By Varda, yeah.
Yeah.
One, just I want to read the couple sentences that you were referring to. Here we go. Oh, so I'll go a little earlier. Yet that crystal, the crystal that they're made of, yet that crystal was to the Silmarils, but as is the body to the children of Iluvatar, the house of its inner fire that is within it, and yet in all parts of it, and is its life. And the inner fire of the Silmarils, Feanor made of the blended light of the trees of Valinor, which lives in them yet, though the trees have long withered and shine no more. Therefore, even in the darkness of the deepest treasury, the Silmarils of their own radiance shone like the stars of Varda. And yet, as were they indeed living things, they rejoiced in light and received it and gave it back in hues more marvelous than before. So they made little rainbows. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. He like refers to the crystals as if they were like the way our bodies are to us. I think that's really almost referring to them as if they were living beings, living things.
That sentence was a very confusing simile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was like, I had to read it a couple times. Like, is he saying that they're part of the children of Luke? No, okay, I get it. So it's like they house the inner light, but it's
the way that people do.
But yeah, but yet inseparable from.
Yeah.
Because like we are our bodies, but yeah.
Right. We're not Gnostics.
Right.
And neither was Tolkien.
Oh, I am. Sorry.
You're a Gnostic Manichaean.
Yes. That's what all Calvinists really are. So yeah.
Don't let the secret out.
Wasn't there something that the Manichaeans they like? There was like something about like certain people, like certain, I think they called them elects, would like emit grace, and I think sometimes they like don't quote me on this. I think they like bottled their farts and stuff.
Oh, that's me.
And sold them on eBay.
Yeah. Like people brought them special food so they would make special farts. I'm not even gonna lie. That is
if we're
going
to be accused of this, then
let's go
when in
whole hog.
Rome.
So
it sounds like a good life.
Bring me all the broccoli.
People are so weird.
Pagan's gonna peg.
Because they think
Another-
like part of your soul was
kind of like when people were supposed to say bless you when you sneeze because like they thought you were losing your soul when you sneezed.
Maddie couldn't even finish it. Can't even say it.
trying to be a lady.
Their farts gave their own radiance. They rejoiced in farts, received them, and gave them back in hues more marvelous than before.
Could you imagine if somebody's listening to this right now and then
No,
somebody walks in the room
only
and they're
Andy
like, "What are
Serkis."
you listening to?" Yeah, Andy Serkis is. I don't know if he's married, but his wife walks in. What are you listening to? Oh, it's
He's cracking
podcast
up.
about the Silmarils, and we're just talking about farts.
This is
And
serious
bottling
stuff,
your
Andy.
farts. Farting your radiance. That should be like one of your Gnostic Manichaean blessings that you would
Mhm.
say at the end of your sermon. May you fart with radiance.
May the radiance of these farts be with you. May it linger long in the rooms where you
And
live.
also with you.
I receive it.
I receive it.
I receive it.
This is how like a weird fringe like Bethel Hillsong cult like
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
branches off.
With the
It's more than grave
angels
soaking.
having farting
Yeah,
contests.
fart soaking
Yes.
is what it's called.
Farts.
Fart soaking. That's what I do when my husband's in the car with us and he shuts the windows.
Never go directly though. We learned that in science class.
I
You
like how
lost
he
it.
locks the windows first.
Yeah.
And then you're like, why? Oh no. Okay.
He's reclaiming the term hot box from the tokers.
Oh my gosh.
He's
It's
doing
exactly
us a
what that is.
favor, blessing us with his radiance.
I've always said he's an American hero, and you're only adding to his resume.
He's gonna be really happy that I'm sharing this. But I'm the one that's had to suffer through all of it, so it's only right.
Yeah, you have the right of victimhood.
You're
in
gonna
that
tell us you
scenario.
haven't added your own radiance.
No, I'm a lady.
Yeah, girls don't fart. We know this.
Yeah. My husband was
Oh.
very clear on that from the beginning. Girls
Oh,
don't
okay.
fart or do other things like that.
It's true.
Still a series of memes coming on.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Please no. Please no. I'm glad I'm on a hiatus.
I want to return to something we mentioned earlier about like the imagery of
Please
like
do.
we're gonna segue over to talking about like fire imagery, and this is within the first couple paragraphs of the chapter. So Feanor brings the Silmarils, and Varda hallowed the Silmarils, so that thereafter no mortal flesh, nor hands unclean, nor anything of evil will might touch them, but it was scorched and withered. And Mandos foretold that the fates of Arda, earth, sea, and air, lay locked within them. That curse is really important for later events concerning the great MacGuffin quest for the Silmarils among different factions. That if you touch them and you're not, basically unholy hands can't touch them. Unclean hands, no mortal flesh can touch them. And doggone it, some people try.
Yet Feanor can touch them apparently.
He's confirmed good guy.
Feanor did nothing wrong.
That's right.
Feanor. Yeah.
It wasn't his fault, guys.
Yeah.
This was definitely one of the most papist paragraphs in the chapter.
Yeah. Big papist vibes.
Should
But
be protesting that, right?
it's still
We've-
really
we've-
important.
Yeah, we've got relics here, baby.
Woo, woo.
Don't touch the finger bone of Saint Saint Edmund.
Or
Your hand will
do.
catch fire.
It's a little less creepy though. It's better when it's jewels rather than like bits of
Yeah.
dead person.
It's certainly a lot
My
more
opinion.
tempting. It's a lot more tempting to try to grab a jewel rather than, a finger bone, a desiccated finger bone.
I'm bummed that I didn't try to go on a rabbit trail about why jewels.
Well,
There's still time.
rabbit trails
I'm-
are welcome.
Yeah.
We just did
Just-
one about farts, so
That you're gonna
We can-
edit out later.
heavens no, it's staying.
Oh, that's gotta stay.
Well, it's right there
I
with
will
3D
veto
printed
any request
fish
to cut
and
that out.
human-shaped beaver dams. So
Oh, that's a deep cut,
we are a full service.
and that was a good one.
Beaver Dam in the shape of Lee.
That was a top shelf meme too.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Came out of that.
Yeah.
Let's hear your iceberg theory about jewels. Why the purpose or the why they're jewels and not something else.
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
No, this is like
Did you have thoughts?
seed of a theory of thinking of a theory. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm curious why Tolkien chose that. Like why, like you were saying earlier, why 3 and not just
Mhm.
1 or not 2 or whatever. I'm just curious why he chose jewels, and then that just brings up thoughts of just human history and the searching after jewels and gems and
They
precious-
represent the 3 ages.
Ooh.
Did it?
Yeah. Man.
Or maybe it's
they-
like a Trinitarian heresy. Partialism or something.
Maybe.
Are they fungible? Like, are they the same?
Would you like to define that word?
Can the syllables be funged?
Could like if you had a Silmaril, and like if I had one and Lee had one, and we traded, is it the same thing? Or do they have like differences to them?
Like say the Elvish rings of power, for example.
Yeah. So some of the like there's not much information about it. Like jewels are nice. I like jewels. Jewels last a long time. They don't rot.
And typically when we think about
trees.
jewels, we're thinking about the way they look when light hits them. So, it's not that far off of an idea of like, oh, what would happen if a jewel emitted light rather than taking in light? But it's confusing also to me, like, why would Feanor blend the lights of the 2 trees, right? Because one glows silver and the other glows gold, and they kind of like almost like where sun and moon meet and then pass each other. One waxes and the other wanes, and then they go back and forth. Why blend the lights? Why blend their light and then put them into 3? I see if it was me writing this, I would have said he made 2 jewels, one for man, I can always remember Telperion, but I can't remember the other tree's name. But I would have 1 jewel for each tree, almost like to preserve the individual trees in their own jewel. But maybe part of his pride is like they gave 2 trees. I'm going to take that light and I'm going to make 3 things. Like I'm going to one up the Valar on that. To go from the pride angle. That sounds like something a sinner would do.
Well, we don't know what the size of the jewels were, do we?
I think it
If
fit
it
on
doesn't-
his forehead.
Yeah.
I mean, so maybe
So
he-
not this big.
maybe he could only stuff so much light into 1 jewel,
Maybe.
That could be.
That's one of the weirdest things I've ever said.
And when he was making them, he's like, he just got 1 bucket's worth of light. It just happened to be 3 jewels worth.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Well,
makes
and
sense.
you have
Like remnants of light.
you have the biblical numbers. Feanor 7 sons. He makes 3 Silmarils. Like I don't know if Tolkien was kind of going with that vibe or not, but
There's three
Those types of
jewels and they
numbers.
all have the same essence.
I have an idea. So in that sentence that I read,
Partialism, Patrick.
I dare somebody to do a Scottish accent and try to say it. It's not gonna be
No.
Don't ask me to do accents.
So part of the doom that Mandos declares is that the fates of Arda, earth, sea, and air lay locked within them. And not to get too spoilery, but each one of the Silmarils has a definitely gains a connection with one of those elements over time.
Yeah.
So it could be almost this is a summing up of the natural elements of the world and their connection to Valinor, maybe. Like, because eventually the world is going to be sundered, and you'll never reach Amon. You know, at this point, you could sail anywhere. You could sail directly to Amon from Middle Earth if you wanted to. And at some point, they're going to be sundered. The world's going to be turned into a globe. It's flat right now. For all you flat earthers out there. So I don't know, that maybe there's a connection with the natural forces of the world and the supernatural force in Valinor in the trees. It's another idea.
It's kind of like the rings in Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Captain Planet is where I learned what the Soviet Union was. Because I was
Really?
I was born after the wall fell.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so
You're
there
so
was
young.
yeah, I'm a baby.
Oh, I'm so old.
And I remember watching an episode of that, and they're like, hey, the Russian girl has one. And she's like, I'm not Russian, I'm Soviet. Like, oh, okay.
Okay.
We hadn't covered that in school yet. So I'm like, what the heck is a Soviet? And I think my dad went, them darn commies. And that was it. That was all I needed.
Sure.
Because
Still
that's
true today.
totally the way my dad talks. You'll believe that, you'll believe anything.
It's so hard for me to not link to the spoiler.
I know. I mean, we can
Especially
if you
with
want to.
Frodo. I mean, we don't have to lay it all out.
Like tease
But
the
I think
spoiler.
when you're thinking of like the light emanating and how Frodo gets a special gift that's very bright, I think they did an okay job with that in the movie.
Yeah, and you know, light comes from them like the stars of Varda. So there's a
Yes.
big connection with stars. With elves
Yes.
over all their life. They all love stars, so it makes sense.
Also that. Correct.
I have to read, so to be completely honest, the first I prepped for this episode was with the audiobook. So I took it in fresh again, having it being read to me. And there was a line when I was mowing when I listened to it. And when Andy Serkis read it, I actually stopped the mower and rewound, like reversed it. And I'm like, I have to hear this line again because it was so good. I was going to write it down in my notebook, but I didn't have it with me. But I found it in my copy. So speaking of Melkor, I'll start a little before the line. From that time forth, inflamed by this desire, he, meaning Melkor, sought ever more eagerly how he should destroy Feanor and end the friendship of the Valar and the elves. But he dissembled his purposes with cunning, and nothing of his malice could yet be seen in the semblance that he wore. Long was he at work, and slow at first, and barren was his labor. And here's the line that got me. But he that sows lies in the end shall not lack of a harvest. And soon he may rest from toil indeed, while others reap and sow in his stead. I was like, dude. We got like some
That was good.
philosophy going on here. That's a
Some
dope line.
demonology going on here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he that sows lies in the end shall not lack of a harvest, and soon he may rest from toil indeed, while others reap and sow in his stead. So like all those lies just build up and snowball, and eventually other people will start pushing that snowball, and you can back off.
Yeah.
It's like state propaganda.
I so badly did not want to go to like current events with those thoughts. Because it seems like pretty obvious, like current context, obvious. But
It does.
Talking about the trans thing.
all of it, everything. Literally everything.
Yeah.
Nick's gonna say something.
No,
Oh boy.
I'm not going to say something.
Just
Well,
say
yes, I am.
it.
Okay,
Just say it.
it's a little out of order. That's the only thing.
Okay.
But it's not just that these lies perpetuate and become bigger lies or whatever. In some cases, like this one, they become truth. Like that actually brings about
Yep.
the thing that he's kind of sneakily saying. That's what brings it about. And with Feanor, this is really out of order. I'm going like
Cool.
two
Cool.
out of the 5 pages ahead here. But his whole story here reminds me of like those Greek stories, like Oedipus, where
Mhm.
he's like, "Oh, you're gonna marry your mother," and he's like,
Hmm.
"Forget that, I'm leaving." And his leaving is like what leads to him being able to marry his mother.
Mhm.
And it kind of feels like almost like that, like Melkor, sends out these lies, and those lies bring about the thing that he's lying about. They bring about the truth.
Mhm.
They make it truth, because then he causes all the family issues and things like that. So it's kind of a weird. They're not lies because they become truth, even
Mhm.
though they were lies.
Mhm.
It's like the ends and the means kind of thing, except
Mhm.
like the truth doesn't justify the lie. It was a lie to begin with, but just because it became truth doesn't make it cool.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you can speak your own truth, and then
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
eventually it
He
becomes...
manifested it, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He manifested.
It's like The
it.
Secret. Like he
Yeah.
was, yeah, he loved that book. Melkor, he had that book, The Secret. He was watching the movie and everything.
He
loved
loves
that
secrets.
stuff. Yeah, he
He
does.
knew what he wanted and he spoke it into existence.
Yeah.
It did hearken to me to James, the book of James, with the tongue, setting a fire
Mhm.
ablaze, or a forest ablaze. Just the idea that you can really, just how dangerous lies are. And I think that's why it's so easy to think of a context, a current one, a past one, historical, that how lies can become so pervasive that in many cases they can become true in a sense. We see that today in many ways, just how people are so divided over things that they need not be, but they were told that they're divided, and now we're divided because whatever, we're all fighting. Yeah, just that I loved that line because it was so wisdomous.
Wisdomous. All right. That's some coinage.
Nice Friends reference.
Yes.
You're onto something with the reference to James, because I think the folks in this chapter could have used a lot of the book of James, because I was thinking about James 4 talking about like what causes quarrels and fights, your passions at war within you, and especially when it comes to like greed, because greed is part of this as well, and just general like pernicious selfishness.
There's such a good lesson too, and like I don't even remember if you read after that line, but where it says, "Ever Melkor found some ears that would heed him, and some tongues that would enlarge what they had heard, and his lies passed from friend to friend, as secrets of which the knowledge proves the teller wise.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Bitterly did the Noldor atone for the folly of their open ears in the days that followed after." It's such a good picture to really warn us. I mean, this whole story warns you of listening to lies, and it's almost just as pervasive as a problem as lying in the first place as it is to be somebody who's quick to listen to a lie. That lack of discerning. And they paid for it because they were quick to listen to the lie and make it worse. Spoiler. But you read the chapter.
It's kind of
They
hard
are boxed in by the lies they were told to believe.
You can't always know that something's a lie until you hear it and are able to kind of test it. So it's kind of hard to, I guess that's not completely true, but you know, you can't always know like, oh, what Zach's about to say is going to be a lie. I'm not going to listen. Sometimes you do have to actually hear and then say, but that puts you in the, you know, in this position where you're listening to it. So I find it hard to fault them somewhat for listening to the lies. It's sharing them, passing them on is, you know, that's bad. but listening to them, which he does fault them, but it's what are they supposed to do? Just ignore everyone? You know, like I don't know.
But I think when he's saying open ears, that's like them being perceptive to the lie. It's not just them listening, like hearing you out, but being like fertile ground for your lie to take hold.
Eager to hear
receptive.
Eager to hear that lie.
All right, fine.
Man, there's a quote by I'm gonna butcher it by Solzhenitsyn, kind of on this, where basically saying like what the thing that leads people into being controlled by tyrants is willfully participating in lies. And basically the way to be liberated is to not participate in telling lies or believing lies. So you can hear, you have to have discernment. You have to hear the lie in order to, and then compare it with the truth in order to know that it's a lie and thus discard it. But the key to all like, the tyrannical regimes of the 20th century, for example, were the people were required to believe lies. Even if they thought they were lies, they were still required to act as if they were the truth. And I think that's pretty similar to what's going on here too. Melkor is exerting an amount of evilly divine force over people with his cunning. Because remember, he is a I want to say a god, I guess kind of a god or demigod or archangel, something like that, a spiritual authority. I think that's at play too.
Yeah, and he had everybody fooled at this point too. Like he's reformed, you know.
Right, he's already been to jail and they let him out. He's
right. He's a good
done
guy
his
again.
time.
Yeah, at one point I wrote on a later section of this chapter, very Angel of Light esque, you know, where he just presents himself so amenable and amiable and like he's helping, you know, like he's offering to help, or he's, you know, giving you some warnings because he's your friend or whatever that is.
A really, really good analog to Satan in this chapter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, using fair words.
Yes.
Particularly in the garden. Yeah. I love the thing. It's visions he would conjure in their hearts of the mighty realms that they could have ruled at their own will in power and freedom in the East, of course, in the East. And then whispers went abroad that the Valar had brought the Eldar to Aman because of their jealousy, fearing that the beauty of the Quendi and the Maker's power that Ilúvatar had bequeathed to them would grow too great for the Valar to govern, as the elves waxed and spread over the wide lands of the world. It's so like Satan trying to tempt Jesus on the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, imagine the realms that could be yours if you just threw off the shackles of the Valar and come with me. bow
Well,
to me.
And that sowing of distrust is like so huge in this chapter. How he sows the distrust of the Eldar towards the Valar. So he's like, they didn't let you in on all this information. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna warn you. So then he sows distrust towards them. He sows distrust towards one another.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
In a real, like, Satan's real ploy. I mean, that's kind of what he did in the garden. Did God really say? So you distrust.
They didn't really have a frame of reference for it either. Like there wasn't anything for them to look at and go, "Oh, he's telling us lies," because he kind of wasn't, right? Like telling them about the coming of men, eventually. Like the Valar, hey, the other Valar didn't tell you about this, and that was true.
Yeah,
they didn't tell
he
them.
knew what was in the music.
Yeah.
And the elves didn't.
Sort of. He wasn't paying attention though. It says that he wasn't. He was like kind of focused on his own thing.
He knew enough to leave some spoilers to twist it.
Yeah.
But
just because he was playing jazz during the orchestra doesn't mean he didn't know what they were playing.
You're never not playing jazz.
But like that line that he tells Feanor later, where he says, "For am I not Vala also?"
Oh,
yeah,
that
and
scene
more
is
than
so
those who
good.
sit in pride in Valinar, and I have ever been a friend to the Noldor. Like he totally puts them like they're the prideful ones. I'm a Valar. Like I don't know. I was like, ooh, crazy.
That scene was so good because he like
It was.
Melkor completely overshoots it. Like he's so hopped up on himself and his plan. He's like, "Oh, I've got like this was supposed to be his like checkmate move." And instead it results in Feanor basically slamming the door in his face at his house in Formenos. Which I think is just hilarious. Like he kind of almost like the Melkor's like met his match when it comes to cunning and pride.
Yeah. I don't know enough about like all Norse mythology, but this whole scene, the play out of all this stuff, the brotherly rivalry, all of that, just I could just like visualize, especially with the Serkis audio.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did such a good job with the voices, obviously.
Yeah.
So
people like if you have a credit, just use it.
just get it. Yeah, just get it.
Just get it. It is so good. It's phenomenal. I want to talk a little bit about Feanor's sins in the process. So he does some very bad. Sorry to back up. So we've talked about his work making the Silmarils, and I think we've pretty much decided the Silmarils are definitely not evil. It was not an evil thing to make them. However, it was prideful. So like maybe he didn't have the best of intentions, but they were still an object worthy of being hallowed by Varda. Okay. So that's fine. But then we start seeing the effect of his pride against his already strained family relations, we should say. Like we talked about last time. And so the Valar knew of the coming of men that were to be. so Melkor's been talking to the Noldor, especially about men. The Noldor began to murmur. I'm trying to find the place that I want to talk about.
Well, while we're there,
Yeah.
what is up with Manwë? Guy doesn't ever do anything.
He's
He
so
kinda-
passive.
He's like, he really is. Passive is exactly the word. Every time, it's just like,
Mhm.
dude, do something, man.
hmm
Send
His eagles
the
are way
Eagles
more
to bring
active in the
these-
world than he is.
Yeah, well, they could have brought the ring. Like, dude, send these, do something. And he's just like, And he just sits around, does nothing.
I mean, he knows the music though.
Yeah, but
He knows the music
It's part
best.
of the music.
he does know the
Nick.
music.
Jeez,
Just he could do things too.
it
And
must play out this way.
Even though I'm number one Ulmo apologist, I do feel like this is something Ulmo should have been involved in, because he kind of hates basically everything that goes on in Valinor. Like it like doesn't exist to him. But but being in touch with the children of Iluvatar in a way that I don't think any other Vala is, I feel like he could have been helpful in this scenario had he been looking westward instead of purely on Middle Earth.
Well, I'm upset with Manwë, so
I,
he and
I
I
like
are
how I
one.
like how Tolkis like hears Melkor's up to something. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go
Man,
try
he
to
is,
find this guy. He
he's
can't.
so
He
good.
doesn't find him, but he's like,
but he's
"Urgh."
ready. He's like
does
cracking his
something.
knuckles. Tulka
Tolkis is-
smash.
He's the opposite of Manwë.
I mean, he's not. Manwë doesn't
All
even
action,
like.
no thought.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He doesn't tell the elves about the men coming. He doesn't do anything at the trial. Like he just is. He's just a passive. Like, hey everyone, just me hanging out here doing nothing. Like, what's the purpose of what? Why do you exist? He just does nothing.
Tell us how you really feel, Nick.
Yeah, no,
Nick is really
I'm
upset.
not bitter
this.
about him.
I don't think
like,
it's
Melkor
by
kind of
accident.
seems like he's right a little bit. That's all.
Why is he even there?
Melkor did nothing wrong.
I don't think it's by accident that Manwë lives on the top of the highest mountain that was ever created. Right? He is that far removed from the actions of the world. I think I lost you there, Nick. I didn't hear what you said.
I said shameful. No, I don't know, but yeah,
Do the
I mean, I
work,
guess
Manwë.
yeah, do the work. Come on.
Get woke.
Each time I read about it, I was just like, dude, what are you doing? Nothing. And I get the point, he knows the music and everything, and I get that, but just throw us a bone here.
Okay, I have a counterpoint. I don't know if
Okay.
it's going to be convincing to you, but and I'm going to get ahead of myself when it comes to the sins of Feanor, but the same way that Feanor's brother won't turn him over to justice, I think the same thing happens with Manwë and Melkor, because they are, as much as Valar can be kin, they are kin. And I don't know if he like he's blinded by understanding Melkor's heart so much that it gives him pause when it comes to stopping him. Like he's too too close relationally with Melkor. If I don't know if I'm saying this right, but like having a level of familiarity with him in like a kin sense, not necessarily like in constant fellowship sort of way, but like just knowing him because he's his brother. Like this is my brother. I know he's doing something wrong, but we can fix this. We've already tried and let him out once. He's He's gonna be okay. He's just my punk kid brother. You know what I mean? The way we'll make excuses for family members we love, but that are hurting themselves or hurting others, when we should step in and not enable them. I don't know. That's one idea.
That's a good point.
So Melkor's like Loki in Ragnarok.
I absolutely
Yeah.
think so. I absolutely think he is like a parallel to actual Loki, not Marvel Loki. Although I will say Marvel Loki is one of the better characters in those movies.
Yeah,
Fantastic character.
agreed.
But I don't know. Bad guys are always, I think, more interesting characters than heroes are.
That's because you're a sinner.
I mean, I am. It's true.
Yeah.
So, the whole simultaneous with being rendered just as well.
Speaking of them being
Yeah.
related, I was also thinking there's another parallel with Melkor and Manwë. Melkor is like the Latter-day Saint version of Satan, and Manwë is the Latter-day Saint version of Jesus.
Oh man. Wait.
No,
You mean Jehovah?
I mean, really, how
And
different?
Iluvatar is Elohim.
Ugh.
No.
I do not like this.
Stop.
I am.
Did you know the Silmarillion was actually first written on 2 golden tablets?
By the Native
You
Americans.
know, the Silmarillion
Yeah,
would be a more
obviously.
believable story.
It is a more believable story.
Oh, good
It
point.
is.
Good point.
It
It
is.
literally is.
It only has like 2 versions.
You should start
Yeah.
going out and talking to Mormons about the Silmarils.
Yeah. Can we compare your bomb with the Silmarillion?
Tell them all about the Silmarils. Like, have you heard about how Feanor placed the light of the of the trees in the Silmarils? If you ever catch a glimpse of them, you'll understand.
The sign of the Silmaril.
Yes.
You have to touch your head
Yeah.
instead of
You have to go. You have to
Like,
go to the
that's the
Hall of
reason.
Mandos to baptize for the dead.
I like this. We could have a whole cult of the Silmarils
We're gonna start
going.
a cult! Yay!
Oh, fantastic.
We should
We'll
really
all go to
start
South
just
America together.
a fake cult, not a real cult, fake cult.
Like
Oh,
like
okay.
flying
That
spaghetti
exists
monster
online.
type thing.
Yeah.
Start those on like
Yeah.
YouTube, and then you get real people who think they're really in it.
Hmm.
We
Like
do it
You
flat
know what
this way,
earthers.
right?
Scientology is?
Yes.
Basically.
And flat earthers also.
In
Sorry,
Hebrew roots.
I definitely made us digress.
Well, it was
I
good.
just
though.
couldn't help it because we were talking about Nick going to a Mormon temple because he's a
Not. I should
heretic.
clarify
I'm
this.
just kidding.
They let people visit before it's like open.
You went as a
And
tourist.
Yeah, I went as a tourist. Yeah,
And he didn't even
As
offer
a
to purchase
spy.
it.
but it was gross. I'll say
But thank
that.
goodness you've already been baptized. Otherwise, you could have gotten baptized right then and there.
You should have
Yeah,
gone
but-
to your nearest
well-
Southern Baptist church and gotten rebaptized after.
There's one next door.
I gotta get
Just
clean.
tell them you need to
Oh my
rededicate
God.
your life.
Yeah. Hey, listen,
And
I
then
need to be
wash you out.
washed.
Oh.
That place was evil. It was bright. There was a lot of light.
Mm.
So, but it was evil.
The level of brightness that like somebody who's overcompensating for how filled with darkness they are, how much they try to
Yes.
look bright.
Yes, exactly. It was like a feigned smile. It was like,
Like an
are you
like
really
an
okay?
angel of yeah, it's like, is there anything behind those eyes?
Ooh.
That's what
Demon.
the whole place felt like.
Total angel of light stuff.
There were demons
Ooh.
behind those eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like when it's almost creepier than anything.
It was. It was. And
So-
there were flies in the celestial room. And so I made a joke about how the place was run by the Lord of the Flies, and my wife wasn't happy with my joke because there were people around.
Then in the corner there was some kid who the kids call Piggy hitting an inhaler.
What?
Another kid getting beat to death with conch shell.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
It could very
Wow.
well have been going on. All right.
Sucks to your Asmar. I loved that book.
Zach, have you read Lord of the Flies?
I never did.
Oh, that's why
Oh,
you're not getting
bro.
all of our jokes.
Yeah,
Dang
I have
it.
no idea.
Because
What you're
he's like,
talking about.
wow, you guys are sick and twisted.
Well,
Like,
it's
just
it's
pulling all
hard
these
because we read
terrible
it when we
things
were
up.
in our the prime of our youth, but it hadn't been published yet when Zach was that age.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So it's hard to
Yeah.
read a book before it's
Totally.
published.
Yeah. It's a 20th century novel.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's okay.
that
not
explains
17th
everything.
century. Yeah.
I feel like
Explains everything.
I do want to reread that book
I do too. It's on my shelf.
as an
I read the Hunger
adult.
Games, so I don't need to.
Ugh.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
I just remember being so traumatized. I had to read it like the summer before my 8th grade year or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, they killed the kid. Like, what is
Mhm.
going on? Yeah.
Mhm. It's
Oh,
flipping
spoiler
dark.
alert.
1984. That messed me up as an adult.
Yeah.
I read it in high school, and it did not affect me near as much as it affected me when I read it this year.
Mm.
Dark.
I wonder, was it anything like when I read the Left Behind series when Obama got elected?
Oh, wow.
I was like, I can't
Wow.
read it anymore.
Dispensational and racist.
Well, the
I wondered if
Antichrist in those books was from like Eastern Europe, so he was definitely very white. So that was not a
and named
racist issue.
Gorbachev.
But everybody was telling me that Obama was the Antichrist, and they did the whole play on words with abomination. And
Oh,
my
yeah.
gosh.
I was all in on the Dispy stuff for a while there, so I totally freaked
And
out.
he does have that big mole on his face too. So like if you were looking for like a mark or something.
What?
Oh my gosh.
Are you saying
Peop-
that's the mark of the beast?
People there were people who said that about
Shoot,
Gorbachev.
Do I
like,
have any moles?
You're
I've got a
like,
mole,
nope,
but
you're
I
going to hell. You got a mole.
I
Oh.
covered it up with my beard, so you'd never know. It's fine.
Oh, no.
No, because like
received
that
the
was part
mark.
of the reason people thought Gorbachev was the Antichrist because of that big birthmark on his head.
That's so weird.
So stupid.
Dispy's
That
The
weird,
is-
man.
birthmark or the view?
All
What?
of it.
Oh, okay.
No, thinking that the birthmark is like a sign
like
of
the
being the Antichrist.
Yeah, because
That's like some Eastern European like
Weirdness.
superstition. You know, there's
He's the
some
Baba Yaga.
countries.
He's dead.
There's some countries where I'm totally digressing. We're going through an international adoption process. Some of the countries will actually have a special need, and that's like for a child listed, and that's having a birthmark.
Birthmark is a special need.
Yes.
Why?
I have no idea. I think in some places it's like a superstition. So then they would reject the child because of a
Wow.
certain type of birthmark. Others, you know, can be more severe, like kind of like on your face and more. But
Mm.
It's kind of like what's her name? That missionary in somewhere in Africa. I'm gonna say Nigeria. And the twins, they would always kill the twins.
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
And she would always save them, or she would do
Yeah.
her best.
yeah.
When they like use their bodies in magic rituals or something, like their body parts or something.
I think they thought they were bad luck.
Or was that was people that had mispigmented skin? That's what it was. Like people that had too light of skin, they thought they were like an evil spirit or something. I
Mm.
forget.
I'm gonna
There's
say
some-
something controversial.
Stop the recording.
Again?
I think Christianity has done a great job of suppressing some of these crazy superstitions.
Cut it off. Cut it off. The show's over.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I don't know. I'm
What are
sorry.
you what are you doing to us?
Trying to get us canceled.
It's working.
That's what I
Except for the dispensationalists, they're pretty good on the superstitions.
want. Oh yeah, well,
The gospel really does push back the darkness, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you don't have to be a completely unhinged eschatological optimist like some of us are, but it for real does.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And
you really are unhinged.
I'm
it takes
incredibly unhinged. I try to cover it up so much, but it comes out.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single hinge.
Gone hingeless.
it takes a very honest atheist to like admit that Christianity has actually helped
Mm-hmm.
the humanitarian effort.
Yeah.
Because it's so inconsistent for them to care about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like even racial disparity. Why would you care if you believe in evolution?
Yeah.
Why does that even matter?
Yeah, why does it
Shouldn't
matter
it
that
be-
certain fizzing bags of chemicals that look one way
Yeah.
have worse times in the world than other fizzing bags that look a different way have?
Yeah. We're just reorganized stardust.
Just
Why
matter
does
in
it
motion.
matter?
And this fizzing bags of chemicals gets me wanting some Diet Coke.
I thought we were about to make the trip all the way back around to Gnosticism.
This is like the opposite of Gnosticism. This is like full on naturalism.
Yeah, it's like bodies only, no souls.
Except for
No-
your occasional authentic self that tends to be a different gender than your body.
Yeah. If you're two spirit,
Well, two
there's
spirits,
people. Most
yeah.
people
Oh
have
my
no
gosh.
spirits, or you can be two spirit somehow.
Your meat avatar is there for editing.
You know, the meat avatar thing, it really that makes me think a lot about the book Altered Carbon, which was mutilated in a Netflix adaptation. I do not recommend watching it, but it is a very interesting. I think I've probably I don't know if I've talked about it on here or just offline,
You have.
but it is a fascinating novel. Fascinating. You know what else is fascinating? Feanor drawing swords. So
Are we still talking about that?
believe it or not, yeah. I want to talk about this because this is really kind of my last point for the chapter. When I was listening to the audiobook, he also read a letter of Tolkien's talking about basically he gives a very brief history of Middle Earth, and a big part of it was the rise of evil being the rise of the machine, basically. And so a lot of these we might call them works of art, right? So it's the beauty of the Silmarils, the idea for rings of power, all these other things
Great
that are
show.
they're all machines, and they're all moving away from sort of a created natural order and beginning to seek power for themselves. Even if they were created for right reasons, they're seeking to take power. And I kind of see a little shadow of that here when at the inspiration or the I guess inspiration might be the word. The inspiration of Melkor, the Noldor start making weapons and hoarding them. Swords and axes and spears, shields also they made, displaying the tokens of many houses and kindreds that vied one with another. So they're like engraving their sibling rivalry basically into weapons. And these not only they wore abroad, and of other weapons they did not speak, for each believed that he alone had received the warning. So like Melkor's playing them off against each other and like fixing to start a civil war basically among this one large family. And Feanor made a secret forge, of course, of which not even Melkor was aware, and there he tempered fell swords for himself and for his sons, and made tall helms with plumes of red. Bitterly did Matan rue the day when he taught to the husband of Nerdanel all the lore of metalwork that he had learned of Aule. And so now the boys, the half brothers, are concerned. Finway's troubled. Fingolfin hastened to his halls and stood before him, saying, "King and father, wilt thou not restrain the pride of our brother, Kuru Finway, aka Feanor, who is called the Spirit of Fire," which is what Feanor means, all too truly. By what right does he speak for all of our people as if he were king? And then, of course, boom, Feanor walks into the room, and he had the helm on, and he had the sword, and he actually brandishes the sword against his own half brother. Never has that happened in the Blessed Realm, right? Even in the war with Melkor, there was never like out and out, hand to hand combat among the Valar. They were opposing each other by their forces, by their creative powers. But here we actually have a brother ready to slay his brother. Almost like a Cain and Abel scenario, almost ready to happen. It doesn't happen yet, but it will happen. Like a Cain and Abel scenario within the Noldor will happen later, but not at this moment. Although it could have happened. An egregious, terrible occurrence. And it's so I guess in my mind, I thought it was crazy how quickly we go from, this achievement of making the Silmarils, and they're hallowed by the Valar, this amazing thing. And then all of a sudden, with just a few fair words from Melkor and a little bit of time, he's now ready to kill his own brother.
And he's kind of trying to oppose Melkor, but he's doing exactly what Melkor wants him to do. It's like, dude, think about it a little bit. If only someone like Manwë could explain to him, just talk some sense into him instead of just chilling up in the mountain or whatever. But instead, he goes and does this.
But at this point, he doesn't really deserve to have any more knowledge. Like, he's already begun to misuse the knowledge that he's already been given. He's like not a worthy man to carry the lore.
Yeah. And I guess this is what brings Melkor's evil out into the
view.
open. So
yeah, and it's really just playing on an existing rift in their family.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's already a dislike. There's already a jealousy of fatherly favoritism.
It's a very satanic thing to find that fault line and exploit it, right?
Yeah. And Feanor, he's just being cocky. I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, he's walking around super proud. He's got his Silmarils. He's just...
I think he does fancy himself a king.
He's behaving very entitled. And then to threaten his brother's life. And it's kind of like you see what you want to see, like hear what you want to hear. He hears it from Melkor. He comes in there. He see his brother's trying to help, deal with the obvious situation. And then Feanor's like, I kill you.
See, half-brother, this is sharper than thy tongue. Try but once more to usurp my place in the love of my father, and maybe it will rid the Noldor of one who seeks to be the master of thralls.
Yeah.
Do it again. That's what
that was also really good by Andy Serkis.
It was very well narrated by Andy Serkis.
I feel like we need to start like some sort of account with Audible where we get some credits for every time someone downloads a book because we recommended it 50 times in the same episode.
We should. Oh man, we'd earn so many sponsorship
like
dollars.
67 cents.
Man,
67 cents.
Over 10 years that could pay for one of our microphones.
That's internet money right there.
Started on cryptocurrency.
Yeah. But it was really well performed by Andy Serkis. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that because it
Yep.
definitely made it come to life. Because
Yeah.
this is my third read through, and it did not. That scene did not stand out in my head the first time I read it,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably fairly common. I mean, you're reading something like this, you don't know where it's going exactly.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't follow like the trajectory of like what we would expect from a novel, for example. It doesn't hit
Yeah.
those beats.
Yeah. So if you're struggling, I mean this chapter is pretty good.
Oh yeah.
But there's times I think when you struggle with this book a little bit, like where's he going with this?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was very well acted, and
Yep.
Feanor is an interesting character. I think
Yeah.
it's really, I like the grittiness of Tolkien's work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell he understands human nature really well.
Yeah.
Like, and I think so. Just to go back to what Nick had said before, you know, and I'm sure we've seen examples like this in real life, but so Feanor is ready to take out Fingolfin. Obviously, the Valar hear about it. They give him a little trial, and they're like, "We're kicking you out." And it's exactly the scenario that Melkor had painted from before. So like, the lie became the truth truly only because of the significance of the passage of time. And given enough time, enough repetition of the lie, build up that pressure in Feanor's mind, that lie became reality. He was forced to leave the Blessed Isle and take up residence elsewhere. It was a matter of the significance of the passage of time,
That is significant
which to
in this
elves
chapter.
they've got all the time in the world, so they would be the perfect people to play out this kind of scenario on. Like you do a little inception of one little lie here, you just water it a little bit here and there, and you've got centuries upon centuries that something horrible could really grow out of that. We, you know, in this story, we have the benefit of seeing it happen in a kind of a short span of time. But imagine if you're a Melkor who likes to play the long game, you destroy an entire civilization that way if they live long enough.
Which
No.
he does.
You say that, but I'm thinking like, you know, if you said, hey, what were the like rivalries that you had in high school? I don't remember any of that kind of stuff. The elves must just have great memories to hold on to grudges and to hold on to lies for that long, because I forget things.
Oh yeah, they definitely, this is part of this is in the nature of Middle Earth, talking about the way the elves are. They are incredibly sharp mind over a long period of time. They also take a long time to mature as well. And sometimes I wonder, especially talking about Feanor, I wonder if some of this is actually a little bit of like elven teenage angst to a certain degree. How youthful really is Feanor at this moment too? I don't know.
It's a teenager.
He could be.
Yeah, sure.
It's
They
a little
actually-
bit
so-
like Capulet and Montague type of vibe.
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Well, I just thinking like, because like what Nick said, like we don't, like we forget things,
Yeah, they just
but
fight. They just know that they're who the enemy
We're
is, not
Hatfields
why.
and they're McCoys. We're supposed to kill each other.
that's, yeah, like I didn't grow up with like a mafia family, so I don't know what it's like to have like
We're
enemy
Irish. They're
houses.
Italian. We're supposed to
Yeah.
blow up their gabagool.
I'm just a mutt. Like I don't have any sort of loyalties.
And all of this is the whole reason that Galadriel had to get off the boat and swim across the ocean. That's the entire reason.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Lee holds a grudge, I guess, for a long time with Rings of Power.
Yeah, Lee definitely holds grudges. He's good at that.
I'm good at grudges. I have a long memory. Sometimes I can't remember what I ate for lunch today, but I can remember that. I'm kind of glad you mentioned Galadriel, because I also kind of think of her in these things as well, because she's part of this family. She's the intersection of two different houses, and definitely she has some of those Noldor tendencies, which of course
Maybe that's why
always
she's so angsty in Rings of Power.
maybe
It's her inner
They were true to the
Feanor coming
Lord.
out.
I think that was a happy accident. Like when Bob Ross made a really beautiful cloud, but he actually just twisted his wrist wrong, and it worked out. Happy little accident.
So you're saying that Rings of Power Galadriel is perfect.
Accidentally, if she is.
Accidentally perfect.
It's just, no, she's teenage angsty Galadriel.
Yeah.
She's like, she's the Galadriel that listens to Slipknot on her Walkman.
Slipknot.
I'm done. It has begun. I'm not the only one.
That makes sense. I'm sold.
If there's not a metal band named Mithril, then there should be, right?
There should be. Except that's a light metal. It's not heavy.
Doesn't matter.
It's like a jazzy kind of metal.
It's also there
elevator
to solve,
music metal.
Solve the dying trees. All the elves are gonna die if you don't find it.
Yeah.
There is a metal band named after something from Lord of the Rings. Oh, what's that band called?
I don't know, but Led Zeppelin, like half their songs are Lord of the Rings related somehow.
Yeah, that's
Really?
true.
Yeah. They're talking about like hobbits and stuff like that. It's like,
wow.
Hirith Ungol.
Oh, nice.
Interesting.
You could, there's a lot of bands that you could make out of Lord of the Rings,
Amarth.
Tolkien's.
The House of Tom Bombadil.
Yes.
Yeah. Amon Amarth. Rush had some Lord of the Rings songs too. I think they had a track called Rivendell.
There's an apartment complex near me called Rivendell, and it's like really run down and kind of gross. So pretty sad.
I mean, you would be too after all these years.
You should go and vandalize their sign so it doesn't say Rivendell anymore.
Or like hit one of the fire hydrants so that they can have some waterfalls somehow.
This was the last homely house, and we're gonna make it homely again.
Yeah.
Make Rivendell homely again.
Disclaimer: the literary Baptists do not endorse vandalism.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
Nick endorses vandalism.
Yeah, I endorse vandalism.
Only restorative vandalism.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Lee. Restorative vandalism.
Just go listen to some Korn, because apparently the lead singer converted to Christianity, so it's totally okay.
Who's their guitarist?
Listen to Korn.
Brian
Oh, is there good?
Welch.
Okay, see, Lee would know. Go listen to some Korn and just turn one of the letters upside down. Like turn the V
Which one?
upside down so it looks like an N, and then it'd just be like Rinnendell.
Rivendell.
Rivendell.
And then it's no longer Rivendell.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Man, now I want to do some metal scatting.
I don't know if I've heard it.
We already know what jazz causes. We've seen it here with the Silmarillion, so let's not.
Yeah, did Tolkien? We didn't really talk about. Did Tolkien not like jazz?
I bet you he didn't.
Probably not.
I could see him listening exclusively to like Gregorian chants on vinyl.
No.
I was actually thinking, so I listened to the audiobook for, oh, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, so I'm not even gonna try. But it was he wrote there's a fragment of an old poem that he wrote like a partner poem story to, and I listened to the audiobook of it. The Battle of Malden, which is the original, the like Bronze Age Viking poem, and then he wrote the homecoming of Beorhnoth or something like that. Can't remember how they pronounced it. Anyway, he Tolkien like read it into like a tape recorder in his office and made sound effects using things around his office. Like he took his office chair and made it squeak, and that was the wagon wheels that they're carting the casket on. And he like sang a little bit too. Like he actually did like some like mass chant type stuff. And in the midst of it, I'm like, I think Tolkien could have been more fun to hang out with maybe than even C.S. Lewis. Like you have to be kind of a fun guy to come up with like stuff like that. And he backed away from the microphone at sometimes to like sound like people going nearby. Like it was like a one-man radio play that he did in his
Interesting.
office.
That's awesome.
It was super cool. Again, another audiobook that people should own.
It's mostly cool because he's famous. If I did that, people would be like, we're gonna have to call somebody.
Listen, doesn't it sound like wagon wheels?
Don't let her homeschool her children. She's insane.
Come sit down in the living room. We have an intervention ready.
Oh my gosh.
We have a banner and everything.
Maybe Tolkien was just homeschooled.
Maybe. He has that vibe.
Or maybe World War One messed him up.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. So I haven't watched the Tolkien movie, like the biopic, but it's amazing how well adjusted he is, having come out of the some of the worst parts of World War One.
This is a bad war.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
I think the writing for them was very cathartic. Him and C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
I recommend the World War One Memorial Museum in Kansas City. It's
Ooh.
I cried. I
Wow.
teared up.
Wow.
So it's
and you're a real
your-
man.
yeah.
Did your tear fall onto a mound and then a tree grew out of it later?
Yes.
In
There's
Flanders
still trees in
Field.
Kansas City because of me. If you see any trees in Kansas City, that was because of my tears.
And a poppy grew under that tree.
Yeah.
All right, folks, I
Yeah,
have no more thoughts. You guys have any more thoughts?
I don't.
Any more powerful thoughts?
Not a powerful thought. I'm just excited about this chapter because it's setting up the rest of the book.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like the players are in play.
7
Things are
chapters of intro.
Like
Yeah.
basically all
things
the
are
momentum
happening.
for all the events of the rest of the first age start it with this chapter.
Yeah. Things are about to get cray.
Absolutely
But-
cray.
Like
Absolutely
furries. Crazy.
Hey, I only speak in like 2010s. I don't know. I don't know any of this. No cap.
I wonder
We clearly do, but
I only know because Lee says it.
Yeah. People in my real life also have learned Gen Z lingo through me. And it's weird because I'm
Yes.
like an 80-year-old man on the inside, but I speak like a teenager.
Yeah, for me, a lot of my stuff comes out as like just I'm being sarcastic and I'm joking, but then it becomes a real part of my language.
Bet.
I
And
relate to that quite a bit.
yeah. And then the awkward part is when you do it with somebody that like doesn't understand sarcasm or irony, and they're like kind of look at you like, okay, you're real something.
And you're
you're
also
like,
looking at them the same way as well.
yeah. Well,
And they
this was
still don't get
great.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just gonna say I'm super excited for the rest of this book. From here on, and not that I didn't love the rest, but from here on out it gets real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We finally got to the point where Maddie's invested.
I'm super invested, especially since Arome popped back in this chapter for a little bit.
Yeah, your boy Arome
Just-
was in here. He
He
was
got
ready
to
name
mention.
dropped.
You got a shout
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, he got
Yeah,
name dropped. Him and Tulkas are
yeah,
out
they were
there.
ready to throw down.
Yeah, looking for some Melkor cloud.
Catch these
apparently.
hands. And Nahar was probably in the background. He's like, yeah, catch these hooves.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what he said.
I'm gonna stomp the crap out of your face.
That was in the notes in one of Tolkien's letters.
Nahar,
But Christopher
stomp
decided not
the
to include
crap
it.
out your face
Bet.
with my hooves. I'm so crazy.
Yeah, they cut
bet,
that one out.
fam.
Silmarils were lit.
Literally lit.
They were lit.
Yeah, it's true.
That's pretty lit.
Oh, dude, that was legit. Way to go, Zach.
Thank you.
You guys sound
No,
like
thank you.
John MacArthur in that video when you say all this stuff.
Oh, yeah, like what was the
Have you ever
thing?
Like
seen
we're
that
dispensational?
other like super nerdy like church rap video? Oh, I just
I can't.
named
I can't do
something
that
that I
kind of
don't have
stuff.
enough. And oh, it's so cringy.
I was talking
that
about
like-
the John MacArthur Babylon Bee video where he was just like, I don't know. So he said something like,
I think he's like,
to
you
a
straight
girl.
up ghosted me, fam. Not cool or something like that.
Yes.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
oh my
funny.
gosh.
Yeah, I think that was the phrase straight up ghosted.
Yeah, I think it was. That sounds right.
Oh man.
Well, he lives in California. I would
It's
expect
about
that.
time something affected him there.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
teenage grandchildren. He's probably hearing these things at the MacArthur family cookout or whatever they do.
I'm so impressed with his 84-year-old brain. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though he's a leaky dispy.
I'm not even that sharp
I feel like
now.
yeah, I was gonna say he's sharper than I am. I'm doomed.
Yeah.
But
well, in COVID boiled our brains anyway, so it's only going to go downhill from here.
That's right.
oh, it's
Nothing
so
to look
bad.
forward to.
That's why, like, we'll have to finish podcasting this before we all descend into into oblivion.
Yeah,
Not
speaking of
elves.
MacArthur, how long did he take to get through Romans? That's about how long we're gonna take to get through
Yep.
this book.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
join it.
Line upon line, precept upon precept.
Except for we're not a church, and that's why I can talk.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
What does Joel Osteen say? Yeah.
This is my Bible. I am what it says I am. I can
Yes.
do what it says I can do. Something, something. I'll never be the same. Never, never, never. I'll never be the same in Monway's name.
Now
God bless
stick
you.
that Bible under your seat because I'm talking for an hour and a half.
That's basically what we do with this podcast, right?
Yeah, you see this? Just forget all this.
We're gonna put
talk
that
about
away now, and you're
farts.
gonna listen to me.
I have a different copy than you guys.
No, this is your you're just grocery
Oh,
shopping or
Yeah, I
pumping
like your
gas,
version, Nick. I wish I had yours.
mowing the lawn, folding some
Second.
laundry.
Two copies.
I want to try
I
to. I
also-
want to try to make this the thumbnail.
This is not. I still want to
Oh.
read this.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I was just looking. So I think
It has a prolegomena on it. That's
does
a
it
legit.
really?
Yeah,
It's a legit like academic theology book.
it's legit. Too legit to quit.
There was a guy in one of my Facebook groups that posted that he was reading that alongside
Stick to the.
the new Trinity book that Michael Bird put out, and somebody was getting all butthurt. They're like, how can a Baptist write a book about Tolkien? Don't they know he was a Roman Catholic, and don't Baptists hate Roman Catholics? What did you just do?
That was funny.
Oh my gosh.
We have no sets to rep. Just want to be I want to be
Disagree.
clear to the public.
Disagree.
We have no set. Maybe Nick does.
I do.
The podcast, The Literary Baptist, does not rep any particular set, even though I'm wearing red. That probably wasn't
Well, when you
smart.
come from a Baptist background, in your little world where you don't learn church history, it's
It's true.
Baptists and Roman Catholics.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody else, forget about every other denomination of Protestantism. That's in your mind. That's all it is.
You've got to set your landmarks, right, Nick?
Yeah. Landmark. I got a copy of the landmark. I'm not related to the Graves who pushed
Who
all
were
the landmarkism, but I did get a copy of his book. Since he has my last name, I was like, man, I'll take
Hard not
this.
to.
Yeah. But I think that's a big problem. That I think part of this is that the Roman Catholic Church is different. This doesn't apply for Tolkien, but over time, like the medieval church, that's ours. Francis has no claim to that. Really,
Mhm.
I mean, some of it maybe, but that's more ours than it is theirs.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who went off the deep end of Trent. So there's part of Tolkien.
Unless you read
for example.
Aquinas, then you're as bad as Frankie.
Yeah,
We all know that.
exactly. Yeah, you
Maybe that's why
automatically become-
Nick. That's why Nick is we're a Roman Catholic, really.
Yeah,
It's because you read Aquinas.
Show us your
exactly.
Aquinas.
I don't have my Baptist papers with me
Swim
anymore.
the Tiber. Just
I lost them in the river. But I think Tolkien was more connected to the early medieval, and
Mhm.
while he stayed on the wrong side, I think in some ways he is a little bit connected to
Mhm.
historic Christianity as opposed to some of the crazy stuff that
Mhm.
we see today.
Yeah, I mean, he was so connected to medieval Roman Catholicism that he was one of the ones that hated when they did away with the Latin Mass and started using the vernacular. I don't think he stopped going to Mass, but he was very unhappy when that happened.
They're
He did not
cracking
wanna do
down
the
on it
Mass.
right now.
Are they
Francis
really?
hates it. Yeah.
Hmm.
They're really cracking down on it.
It's all those
So-
trads. He can't stand the trads.
Yeah, exactly.
I could go on for 3 more hours talking about this subject, but I'll really try hard not to.
We should have an addendum. We should have a miscellany episode about this.
Yeah. Our
'Cause there's-
ventings about everything that's wrong with our skewed view of the Reformation and all that.
Yeah.
jazz.
Someone should write a book about it.
Yeah. Yeah. In like, renewal.
Yeah.
And make
But
it
you're gonna
like
pull out a prop.
600 pages of 8-point type.
Maybe go 2 volumes.
That book should have been in 2 volumes because like I've been trying to. It's Matthew Barrett's The Reformation as Renewal, and like the print is tiny, the book is enormous, and I'm like I just wish we could have like Reformed Dogmatics this. It had like 4 volumes, but oh well.
Did you
it's
finish
just not,
it?
Oh no, not even close. I'm planning to finish it. I would like to have it read by the end of this year, but I will admit I am prioritizing our reading challenge over any other materials that have come along over the course of the year. Because I am in it to win it.
I still need to read the 2,000 Years of Christ's Power that I got for Christmas.
Ooh.
All of them?
Is that Needham?
All of
Nick
them.
Needham?
Yes. I think I even got his newest volume with that. I can't remember. So I think a newer another volume came out recently, and I can't remember if it came out before Christmas or after. Because I'm also a pagan and I celebrate Christmas, so there's that.
Well, you're reforming. Soon enough, you'll celebrate Festivus like the rest of us Reformed Christians.
Yeah. So, soon enough, I'll stop having any sort of life and just exist a little bubble.
I got a lot of problems with you people, and you're gonna hear about it.
What do you mean, you people?
I don't know. Ask Jerry Stiller. It's his line from Seinfeld.
Okay.
Do you know Festivus, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's the airing of grievances and feats of strength.
Rand Paul does the airing of grievances every year.
Oh yeah.
For the federal government.
The Rose of Kentucky. He's amazing.
The Rose of Kentucky. Wow.
He's a star. All right, folks, I have to go. So thank you for a scintillating conversation. As always, excited to see the pressure mount in the Silmarillion, and excited to see where we go next.
Yep.
So may Monway keep you in the one, and peace out.